Hi, everyone. And it's another opportunity for a smashing interview today. And I'm talking to Jenny Wallace. Jenny Wallace, I met a few years ago, and we came across each other in an unexpected situation. And I've keep bumping into Jenny in lots of different ways because she's very much a community worker. She's part of the community. She's well known in the town that she lives in. And I'd like to find out a bit more about her. So I thought I'd get her on today and we can have a chat. So, welcome, Jenny. I met you in your role as Deputy Mayor of
Right,
Gravesham a while
that's right.
ago. So, let's start with you. And how are you today? Are you well?
No, I'm fine, absolutely fine. Every day is good because every
That's
day is a bonus.
right. Well, that's a good attitude, isn't it? That's what we need today. And so, yes, I met you at a book launch and I was fascinated by all that you do. So, perhaps you could just start with how did you get interested? Were you always interested as a child or a teenager in helping communities?
I think you can go back to my family roots, particularly to my mum and dad, because both of them were community people. And it's so true because whatever surrounds you influences you as a child. Then when I met my husband to be Jonathan, um, we were both at the BBC at the time, and we were very involved because the BBC was a completely different animal back then. And so I took advantage, as was he, of taking every opportunity of training that the BBC offered. And at that time, you could actually also belong to what was called the Studio Amateur Dramatic Group, the Studio Amateur Dramatic Group. And you had use of the studios that weren't in the drama studios, and you could actually learn the techniques of running the production desk and so on. As I say, it was a different animal.
Mm,
Now, that doesn't sound much like community, but what it was a community amongst other BBC employees, and the friendships that were formed through that were very long term. I mean, for example, Jonathan sadly died back in 2003, but his funeral was full to the rafters with
mm,
people that we'd got to know over the years. Now, when we moved, I'd been part of Gravesham since I was 8.5. When my mum and dad bought home a bungalow in Mepham, I think with about a penny to spare at the end of each month, because we'd actually rented rooms, or they had rented rooms above and below my uncle's brush shop in the Old Kent Road. So I was very much born in London.
mm.
Um, but since then, I have been in Gravesham. I did spend, it must have been 3.5, 4 years renting a flat in London, which was great. I mean, it was when I was at Broadcasting House, it was just a 7-minute walk from work and the tube out to television centre, blah, 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 blah. But when Jonathan and I got married and we moved here into one of the villages in Gravesham, and we got very involved in the community. And then once we had children, um, I worked for W.H. Smith at the time in the press office, and I was the first woman in the company to take advantage of maternity leave. The law had just been passed that women could
Wonderful.
take maternity leave, unpaid, but you could
Right.
actually take 6 months
Right.
off work back then. This was back in 1979, eons ago, history. Um, so then Jonathan by then was freelance broadcasting and freelance writing. So our daughter had the advantage of being with him. She didn't walk until she was just over 2 years old. So she used to go to the studio with him and sit up on the control desk
Mm,
whilst he was doing programs, presenting programs from the studio. And she adored it at that age. So she was brought up in that same vein. But we
mm,
got involved in local community and what was happening. Jonathan ran as a parish councillor, which now doesn't sound very grand, but back then, there was no such thing as an election for a parish councillor. The parish council meetings were not open to parishioners. So he managed to change all that, and I was working alongside him. Um, and then we got more and more involved with the community. And then we also set up a business, a residential lettings agency, which we kept to Gravesham. And Gravesham is the town plus all the surrounding villages. If you go back to the Domesday Book, you can find the name Gravesham in that. And Gravesham itself, the name, came into being as recently as 1974. So we were in one of the villages in Gravesham. And so we were actually helping run campaigns that were going on around and about us. We formed the agency because friends had set up one in London. So in order to make it look larger, we set up this in Kent so that it had the same identity. Estate agents laughed at us saying, because we were the only specialised letting agency, thinking we wouldn't make a go of it. We did keep in business for 36 years. I just sold it in 2016. I also became very involved with the Labour Party. And then in 2016, there was a by-election. By then, Jonathan had died. And at that by-election, I was elected, and I represent the town ward, which is one of the wards in the centre of Gravesend, along with 2 other councillors. And I'd already got involved in other community things within Gravesham. And once I became a councillor, I got more involved. Because when you are a borough councillor, which is what I am, you're almost part and parcel of a social worker as well. Residents will come to you with their problems, and sometimes that they are at the end of their tether. And you actually, one of the most important things to do is to listen to them. And Jonathan and I learned that when we had the residential lettings agency, because we would have people come to us back then wanting to rent a property, but they were being blocked on so many fronts.
Right.
So the landlord base that we had, because we kept it to a small portfolio so that we could match tenants to landlords, but tenants who were struggling financially, we would help them to get benefit, housing benefit and help. So that's where that stemmed from. And I took that over into my council work, and it's grown like topsy into all of my council work.
I think when I've spoken to a lot of politically minded people and people in the community, it is just something that just grows and grows and grows. But I know as politicians have their surgeries, and they can be quite nail biting, can't they? On the edge of the community problems. Yeah. So what does this give you? What do you get from all this? People ask me that. Why do I give so much? And I'd like to ask you, what do you get yourself from that? There's nothing wrong with receiving, but what does it give you?
It's a two-way street, isn't it? I mean, this current year where you're interviewing me, 2025, the municipal year, very pompous way of describing it, goes from May one year to May the next year. I am the mayor of Gravesham, and that when you go out to the events, to the community events in the borough, you meet the most amazing people who are volunteering their time, helping people, not blowing their trumpets, quietly. They've been doing it for years. My 2 charities this year, for which I'm fundraising, one of which is Eleanor, I met at the garden party, or the garden fair rather, at Eleanor. One lady, her husband died 40 years ago at Eleanor, and she has been fundraising ever since. And she was full of life, enthusiasm. If you felt really down and you met her, you'd come away feeling very uplifted. And I think that's what it does. You don't, I mean, of course you don't ask to receive. You were taught not to. Well, my generation was taught not to, you know. However, what you get back is phenomenal. It is just phenomenal. And you see the work. And when, as a councillor, if I get a resident come to me absolutely desperate because they've tried every avenue, if you can work alongside them and you can find a way through it, and you get them a tiny bit of success, that's wonderful. But sometimes it's just not possible, particularly on housing, because there's such a housing shortage. But the main thing is, they feel valued because they've been listened to, and somebody has tried to help them. And that is a councillor, and that councillor has gone to the officers of the council, because I always regard that the officers are the professionals. We work, the councillors, where we are in control, we work out the strategy. But at the same time, we actually work alongside those residents who are desperate, and we can help them. But sometimes there is no way of helping them, except when you go further afield, typically of the housing fund, there's shelter, there's the citizens' advice, and quite often residents don't realise there are other organisations that can help them. So even if through one tiny thing like that, you've helped someone, then that's good. Not because they're grateful to you, sometimes they're not, but because you know that that could be the first step in their lives, that they have felt they've received help. And you would like to think that ultimately, in some way, they will remember that, and therefore, if they come across somebody else who needs help, they will in turn help them. And so
it's the resilience as well, isn't it? I find working with communities, it's yes, giving and helping and supporting, but it's all about really showing people the way, guiding them, and giving them hope and resilience to continue. Because I know that sometimes you come across people that are very desperate. What you've done as well is that you kind of like spread through all your connections, so that you have different ways of looking at problems and issues and guiding people to someone else. So I can see that's brought you to this point. So you were deputy mayor last year when we did this book launch, and it was fantastic that you came along and gave us such an encouraging speech to the author and about loneliness in the community. And loneliness is a big issue, isn't it? And sometimes I think when we're busy helping others, we tend to forget ourselves. So how do you look after yourself and your own self-care?
My very grown-up son still lives at home. He insists that he needs to move out and rent a place. I said, this is crackers, because his sister married an Australian. She lives in Australia. And I said, we've got this house that's large enough for the two of us just to occasionally meet in the kitchen. So that's crackers. Don't waste your money until you can afford, hopefully, a deposit on a property of your own. So that's good, because that injection from him, for example, this year where I'm there, he's actually my escort for the year, which is wonderful. And it's lovely when he's able to come to events with me. It kind of creates this family thing. And Ali, short for Alexander, Ali, he is able to be slightly freer in talking about what's going on in the world today, although he is still my consort, so therefore he must still be impartial. But he is able to listen again to people's concerns, and it does come up at community events. So that's quite delicious. So close friends, most important. My son. I'm in contact with my daughter. I have two granddaughters who live in Australia. I love musical theatre. And that's one of my themes for my mayoral year. It's mental health, musical theatre, and also history. So, and I mean, I will watch on the television a film very late at night, which is actually the wonderful relief and a release. And going to the cinema, which there's, so there are all sorts of ways. I think one of the things, you are not being kind to other people, let alone being kind to yourself. You're not being kind to other people if you just let yourself burn out, or you become grumpy, or, oh, God, I've really got to deal with this. And you go in and you think, oh, really? So you put on some silly smile, because you've got to be genuine. People will pick up, and you don't get the best back. And people are fascinating to talk to. I know that you do, Victoria, and I absolutely adore asking people about themselves, finding out about them, what's going on, and so on. Love it. So
I think that's lovely. So you're talking about family and connections, being connected to the community, because they do say the best thing for mental health is to be connected and be gregarious, make yourself go out and join groups, etc., which can help loneliness. But I think if you are at the front face dealing with a lot of people all the time, and it is problematic, I used to be a teacher, and you don't get people coming up telling you nice things. They need help all the time. So you're always giving. So to lose yourself in a movie is a replenishing way, as long as you get enough sleep. Do you think in your role that you get enough sleep?
Probably not. Because the other thing I do love to do is I do love to read books, and but again, they tend to be books like there's a marvelous book that was bought for me for my birthday, and it's a day in politics for the last year, and it goes through the year, i.e. from the 1st of January, but he selected a date from, say, 1845 in the 1st of January, and we'll talk about that. And each one, it's just one page, so it's 365 pages. It's a very clever book, actually, but that sort of thing I like very much. Then I can lose myself in the book Gold, about the gold robbery, which was written, well, I suppose it's semi-true, semi-fiction and everything. But that was, it was a real page turner. So it's a mixture. And I think that's the other important thing, to have a mixture in your life. It's like your friends, particularly if you've got some who are close. If you ever sit down and think about them, you will find that you've got a mixture of people, and they actually are feeding you all the time. And you like to think that you're feeding them back and you're not just taking from them, but it is an essence of being alive to what's happening, and to be alive and alert to what is happening. I'm fine with my own company, but at the same time, I love going out, I love meeting, I love talking. And I talk and I'll talk and I talk, as instanced here. I'll carry on talking.
Lovely.
I think it's because I'm from the Irish stock, so we always talk a lot. But no, it's good. And I think that's the other thing. And one of the things I'm vice chair of the Gravesham 50 Plus Forum, which you spoke at earlier this year as one of our guest speakers. But they meet.
I loved it.
4 times a year. And the main aim of that is to combat loneliness and isolation, because as the name says, it's anybody aged over 50. Well, we do have 51-year-old up to nearly 90, which is great, because that in itself is a mixture of generations. And then each meeting we will mix and match, and we will try to create different speakers and different events happening. We did have funding cut, but then lots of people have got their funding cut. So we are up against it with funding, but then who isn't? And you always think, well, okay, we'll carry on, we'll keep on applying for grants, and we'll keep doing it, because we'll make it so.
Well, there is a big need, and that shows in the numbers. I mean, I've been to the forum twice, and it's been well attended. There's a lot of people, and they're very different in focus, in all sorts of ways. And one of the things I've like to mention is that you're coming to the windmill, Mepham Windmill, because it's been restored and it's opened this year, and we're having a celebration, and you're very kindly coming along to speak at that and to help us celebrate. If you've been in Mepham around that time, you must have seen it undergo quite a lot of changes.
Absolutely, because since a child, I mean, we moved there when I was 8.5, so it's been the landmark of my life, really. Although I've moved away from Mepham and so on, but yeah, I've got very close links with it. No, and it's good that it's been restored. It's wonderful. I mean, I just think it's lovely. It's so relaxing to see a windmill. I mean, I really, a lot of people might throw brickbats at me, but I think wind farms are lovely. If you go along the bottom part of Birch Road in Gravesend town, you've got the various wind turbines in the river, and you see them turning according to the wind to create the power. And I just think it is so soothing. It's a bit like the sea, isn't it? Well, the waves are coming in and out. That's my feeling, but that's just me.
Oh, no, it's me as well. I find them quite graceful from the distance, but I can understand. My feeling when they first arrived was there's too much progress here. I'm not sure, but you soon get used to everything. Like I don't notice the pylons in the fields. I would if I suddenly saw them go up, but to be honest, they've always been there all through my life, really. So I just see them as part, like trees, that they're part of the picture. But I think what I've noticed about the windmill in Mepham, for example, just as an example, is that something has brought the village together, brought communities out. There's children there, there's older people, there's people who are interested in the technology of historical buildings and mechanisms, and there's people who just want to sit in the grounds and just feel they're part of a village. And it's like that in life, isn't it? When you're working with people's problems all the time, it can be quite wearing. And I think you have to, when I know that I've spoken to you, you're very light, you're very bright and uplifting in your own personality and your nature, and how gentle you are with people. And I think that's what draws people to you. The thing that communities need, it's what we want, isn't it? We want a focus. We want someone to help us. We want someone to draw us in, where we can gather and learn and grow from that experience that isn't necessarily a good one, but we can grow from it.
Learning together. I think that's the other thing.
Yes.
Last Saturday, I went to the relaunch of a library, and it's in Northfleet, and it's in quite a deprived area. And they've done it bright, and they've managed to get funding. It's packed with books, and there were obviously the library staff there, but there were parents and children. Unfortunately, they had some adult chairs by some of the craft tables for the children, so I was able to sit down with the children and talk to them. And of course, they're always a joy, because children just say it as it is. And there were two little girls very busy with paper plates and then putting all these beads and things on. One was 9, one was 11. So they were of a different standard, as it were, but they were still very beautifully done with great care. And I was admiring them and asking them about them. Da, 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 da. And then there was a little 5-year-old boy, and he was doing something, and I was asking him about that, which was lovely. And it was a delight, because it all became a two-way. Now, when I left that event, these two little girls, one came up to me before the other one, and she very quietly said, "I would like you to have my plate." So I said, "I can't take your plate. You must take that home to your mum or your mummy." I said, "You've put all that effort in. No, I definitely want you to have it." And I said, "Are you absolutely certain? Because you give that to me and it's going to go away with me." "I really do." And then the little 11-year-old, who was very sensitive and so on, she was at the computer, and then she turned around as I was about to go over, and she said, "I would like to give you my plate." And I said, same conversation. And he went, "No, no." And I said, "Well," and then the two of them were there. And I said, "Listen, what I'm going to do is I will take a photograph of them when I get back, and I will send the photograph back to the library." Well, I did it. I took a photograph of them separately and did little messages from the mayor of Gravesham. And of course, the lady from KCC, who was the lead county customer service librarian, she was thrilled, because she said, "Oh, we will display that." Well, I said, those little girls gave me their treasures. And I said, they're still sitting on my desk, because I said, I haven't got the art, I can't do anything else with them but keep them, because to my mind, that was giving something that was really of value, because they'd actually worked on that all the time I was there. So it's just so lovely that at that young age, they felt they could do that. And
isn't it wonderful? That's what you're getting back from your
yes,
service, for everything you're giving. You're getting back these treasures, which means such a lot. And it's the whole experience that is meaningful, isn't it?
oh yes,
Reply. I think that's a lovely story. And again, it's about, we are community people, community creatures. Human beings need to be part of a community and make it beautiful. And we need to come together for positive things. So,
definitely. And working together.
yes.
It's no good being angry and hostile. Anger just actually makes you or oneself totally exhausted, and you get more and more angry, and that just creates other anger. What is the point of wasting time?
Well, it dispels people. It stops people from helping you. But I appreciate your time, because I know you've been busy today. This is our second time of trying to get together. So you are a very busy lady, and I'm sure you're going to do and are doing a fantastic job as mayor this year. And I've had a lot of pleasure meeting you. So it's wait and see what else comes about for
Well, it's
you.
mutual, Victoria, because it's been a joy meeting you. Yeah, it's been a joy to meet you, and it's a joy to know you, a privilege to know you.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
do
Yeah.
stay in touch, and absolute joy to talk to you. So,
Oh,
roll
lovely.
on talking.
Yes. Well, on that note, then I'm going to say thank you. And there's formal ways of giving service, and there's informal ways. And Jenny is fantastically doing some formal work for us in the community, and she doesn't always get the praise. And I'd like to say thank you. And also, if it's you, if you're thinking that you'd like to do something a bit more than what you're already doing and make it a little bit more efficient, and you want to stand up and speak, and you want to put yourself forward, then go and get some more information, because maybe you could be a pillar of society too and help your community in other ways than you're already doing. Thank you, Jenny. It's lovely. It's really nice talking to you, and good luck
My
this
great,
year.
great pleasure. My great pleasure. Bye-bye,
Thank
Victoria.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye, everyone. Bye.